Great afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Women and Young Member Excellence Committee of ICAI, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to Skill Up Knowledge webinar series 2. It's a Wednesday series of programs conducted by Women Young Member Excellence Member Committee for the Women Series by the Women Series. It is one of the committee initiatives to not only disseminate information to women members on technical updation and non-technical skills, but also to empower and inspire women to come at forefront and realize their verbal skills at public forum. Now, I would invite the chairman of this committee, CA Purushottam Khandelwal sir, for his words. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I, CA Purushottam Khandelwal, Chairman of Women and Young Member Excellence Committee of ICI, extend a very warm welcome to all esteemed members and participants to SkillUp Knowledge Webinar Series 2. The committee remains steadfast in its commitment to improving women and young members by its fostering a capacity building, leadership development, and professional excellence. The Skill Up series is a focused initiative aims to equip a member with future-ready competencies in increasingly dynamic and technology-driven environment. Friends, my committee is always dedicated to the women's and young members. This committee is specifically constituted to cater the requirement and need of the women members and young members. Friends, our women members are passing through the different phase of life and what the institute can help to the women members. As you know, every third CA is a woman chartered accountant, and you recently know the Modi ji announced to give a reservation in the parliament also. So even though there is no reservation in the institute, but we know as a professional we have always extend our graceful commitments to the women. The today's session bring together two highly relevant themes: a digital skill and technology adoption for the future ready profession, and a social entrepreneurship in India, driving sustainable impact in a digital world. In present scenario, the role of chartered accountant is undergoing a significant transformation with the advancement in the digital technology, data ecosystems, automation, and evolving regulatory frameworks. The profession is expanding beyond the trainee function, becoming a studying advisor and value created. Friends, you go through the media reports. We got so many media reports that the other institute is creating exam will be uniform for the all three institutes. All rumor is going on. My humble request not to become a disturbs. Nothing can happen to the institute. Is a 75-year-old institution and we वो बोले ना हमारी जड़ इतनी मजबूत है वट वृक्ष हो गया कि वी आर दी नोन एज ए ऋषि मुनि ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड। मोदी जी बोलते हैं कि फाइनेंशियल जगत के हम अर्थ ऋषि मुनि है। सो हमको कोई हिला नहीं सकता क्योंकि सीए का मतलब ही ट्रस्ट है। और इस 75 ईयर में हमने कॉर्पोरेट का विश्वास जीता है, स्टेक होल्डर का विश्वास जीता है। सो कुछ घबराने की जरूरत नहीं। द एबिलिटी टू एम्ब्रेस डिजिटल, देन इवन दो वी आर गोइंग विद आवर ओन स्विंग, वट एवर वी आर डूइंग इज कंटिन्यू। The ability to embrace a digital transformation is now a fundamental. Proficiency in the digital tools, data analytics, and emerging technologies is essential to enhance efficiency, transparency, and stakeholder. At the same time, the profession is increasingly expected to contribute toward sustainability, governance, and social impact. The social entrepreneurship provide a powerful pathway to align profession expertise with inclusive growth and nation building objective. We are privileged to have with us a eminent speaker, CA Deblina Pal and Shavya Gurupati, who will share their valuable insight and practical perspective. फ्रेंड्स, लेडीज कहीं भी कम नहीं है। जितना लोग बोलते हैं आर्मी में भी है, डिफेंस में भी है, अंतरिक्ष में भी है और प्रोफेशन में भी है। तो पहले बोलते थे कि लेडीज का, मैं तो पहले भी बोलता कि तीनों देवियां लक्ष्मी, सरस्वती और दुर्गा, तीनों पूरा शासन लेडीज चलाती थी। तो ठीक है, चलो कम है, लेकिन अभी भी वही वापस सतयुग आने वाला है। सो आई एक्सटेंड माई सिंसियर appreciation to the moderator Niharika ji Goyal and Nikita Tejwani for facilitating their engaging and insightful discussion. I encourage all participants to actively engage, reflect, learning, and leverage of this platform to continuous professional development. The future of our profession will be defined to not just what we know, but by how effectively we evolve, innovate, and create impact. So, my humble request to all these learned speaker and those who are listening this online webinar, I always welcome their suggestion. Friends, I am not enough competent कि मेरे को सब कुछ आता है, but I have a one third chartered accountants, extremely intelligent, full of the chartered accountants. They can run their committee, they can run their show with the help of Tapol of the Energy. She is a very efficient secretary of this committee. And my humble request to Tapo to be in touch with all these ladies, those who want to help for the fraternity at the large. So
Yes,
with
sir.
this word, I once again welcome you all with wish you a happy, insightful, and enriching session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would brief you about our first speaker, CA Devilana Palman. Devilana Palman is a chartered accountant with 6 years of experience in revenue accounting, financial reporting, and compliance across the technology and consulting sectors. Currently, she is serving as a senior revenue analyst. She also leads global revenue close process and ensure ASC 606 compliance across multiple entities. She has driven significant process improvements, including a 20% enhancement in a month and close efficiency and recovery of over $2 million in quarterly revenue. Her expertise spans in IFRS, US GAAP, SPN financial modeling, risk assessment, and internal control, supported by strong data analytics skill in Tabula and Power BI. She is adept at stakeholder management, audit governance, and team leadership, consistently driving operational excellence, financial integrity, and strategic business outcomes. I would invite you, ma'am, to take the virtual stage.
Thank you, Nikita. It's been a pleasure to introduce myself like this. It is really, really great platform for me to showcase today's webinar. And I'm starting the webinar now. So, as Nikita mentioned, I have been working with Palo Alto Networks in industry, and this is a cybersecurity company. And before this, I was working with other tech companies, and while working with tech, it has always been of interest to me that how can a CA venture into tech? Many people have, and be it any industry, be it any practice, be it if someone is an entrepreneur, I always thought that the technology is always intriguing to me. And without technology, we cannot run in today's world. So that's how my interest turned into a passion to do some automations in my current work and to use AI. So I'll start presenting my screen after this introduction. So today's topic is digital skills and technology adoption for future ready professionals. So why do we need to be future ready is the first question. we always have a doubt that whether the work of a CA will be redundant and will not be in actually any more use. The things that we did, like Sir said, that will we be replaced? We cannot be replaced. But just not to be replaced, we have to be future ready. And while being future ready, we mean that we need to adopt to the changing environment, basically, the changing tech environment that we have. So, now if I actually classify CAs into three, the members we can classify into three categories: the one who are in practice right now, the second who are serving industry, and the third who are employed by themselves, that is self employed, they are having their own business. Now this future is more about digital transformation rather than simple accounting and auditing, because now all these things are getting done by all the uh, softwares. So what is the use of CA now here? We need to actually focus more from the compliance perspective to consultancy now. And when we are actually focusing on the consultancy, we are creating value for all of the entities that we are serving. For CA practitioners, earlier audit was mostly a manual thing. Now there are softwares of audit which are doing most of the work. So, what's our use? How are we going to provide value if the companies will now tell that, okay, we will just have this audit software and we will do the audit by ourselves? No, nobody can do that. The We can say that parki nazar of a CA is only required while the audit is done. The judgment call is to be done by a certified practitioner, a chartered accountant. So there is our need. That is just audit. But what about other strategic advising about any kind of mergers and acquisition? So technology is not our enemy, but it is something we need to adapt to, which we can actually use it to make our work better, to make our reporting better, to make our forecasts better. For industry professionals as well, we see that so many CAs are heading towards the CFO and CEOs of company. And this is really possible now with getting in hand technology to ourselves rather than just being in the back seat. So, and after that, when we are seeing that some people, the members, they are becoming entrepreneurs. So the entrepreneurs will actually have so much of automated work that they can actually delegate those automations to some of the AI engines and AI softwares so that they can mainly work on client getting and growing their business. So, this is how our focus has to shift now. Okay. So, for today's topics, I will be very brief and I will be just focusing on few use cases here. Okay. So, before we get started into what exactly are we covering, first I want to actually understand that nowadays everyone is using AI in every thing that we are working on. Even if it's our personal life, we are using AI. So, why is it important and how is the model created? So, for that, I will have to move to the first topic, that is the LLM. Now, we know that LLM is, we all know the full form, it is large language model. But how did it come into picture? So, how is it different from Google, a simple search engine? Earlier, we used to search for something on Google or maybe previously before that yahoo.com or any kind of web search engine. But now, why LLMs are becoming our new search engines? What is the difference? If I tell you in a short way, LLM is nothing but, as you can see here, it is more than a data processing tool, than it is creating an insight. It is an insight synthesis tool, we can say. So when we are actually using an LLM, they will be actually making it work like a sequel. So when it feels like I'm talking to a person, and that person is understanding the things that I am telling, and they are trying to process it with all the data that they have already inside, and then with that they are generating result. Think it to be an advanced computing engine. So, in a computing model, in a computer, we learned in our childhood that there is input, processing, and output. So, this works in an advanced version where input is what we called the prompt, which we are going to cover in the next few slides. But before that, here in LLM, we are creating a prompt, a very structured prompt, where we are adding that to the LLM as an input, and LLM are processing it with their own transformer architecture through their background knowledge of all the things related to that prompt, and the output is a very well defined response that we are having. As for example, whatever, say example, you search something on chat gpt or a gemini, that feels like a very human form has explained you that thing instead of just a search result. So nowadays, if all the things machines are doing, what is the use of humans now? That's one question. So you can see here, the goal is not about replacing the accountant or chartered accountant. That can never be done. It is only helping you create a process. The manual processes are getting streamlined into the softwares so that we are only there for the judgment portion and high level strategy. Some of the few examples of LLMs, like I have mentioned here, are the common ones which we use most of us in the daily lives. In Gemini, Cloud, ChatGPT, Copilot, all these are the major LLMs that we have. So, after I have explained LLM, like I said, I will come to what prompt engineering is. So, before that, prompt is, as I mentioned, it's the input that we provide to the LLM. So, why prompt engineering? Engineering means we actually create a structure of something and we input that. So, here, even prompt also needs a structure. Even prompts also need some kind of architecture so that we can generate useful result. A simple example I can give you. Say you search something on Gemini that give me an example of a movie. That movie, they will give you so much of example. But now if you engineer or structure it, that give me an example of a movie where this character was present at that point of time and the other character was actually looking forward to something, and you describe the situation. In that way, since your input was more described, it will give a more accurate answer and not just a list of answers. So, here is why the engineering is more important for prompt engineering. Here, as mentioned, the definition is very straightforward. Practice of designing and structuring the inputs, that is, the prompts, to effectively steer AI models towards high specific desired outputs. So, you must have also seen that earlier when you used to search on Google something related to, say, ITR filing, we used to get so many links of ITR filing, ITR 1, 2, and so many sponsored links. It used to be a very much of a confusing thing. Now, if you ask the same question, ITR filing, and your specific question to any of the LLM models, you will be able to get a better answer than what the Google or any other search engine used to provide by separate links. So, definitely, with better prompts, we will have better output quality, reliability, and efficiency. But now, the major question is, Like, how does it happen? This is like a small data structure that I have provided. This is, like I explained earlier, why the prompt engineering is actually necessary and how it works. So, first comes the user intent, where you though have a goal, but once you draft it in a very good prompting and you have a structured and cleared context, you will be able to get the target output. Now, if you tell, for example, in Gemini, that I want the analysis of a particular income statement, it can provide a large number of things. It can provide the depreciation, it can provide the total cost, it can provide the gross profit, everything. But if you ask the LLM, any of the LLM, that I am providing a P&L statement, please provide me with the EBITDA, or please provide me with the sales turnover ratio. So, in that way, it will be able to understand and calculate it better. That's the reason prompt engineering is necessary. So, the prompt engineering for any financial data can be done no better than us CAs, because we know our accounting and our techniques and our financial data better. But we also need technology to have that as a small steering wheel so that we can fasten it up and get clearer data. So, this is basically the what and why do we need prompt engineering. Um, slide is so prompt engineering is a very, very vague concept if you don't know how to actually apply the right principles. Prompt can be anything. Prompt can be one word. Prompt can be a full paragraph. So the core principles, these are the four basic principles of prompt engineering, that we have to be very, very specific, and we have to be unambiguous. Unambiguous is, sorry, unambiguous here means very clear. When we are asking for something, when we are asking for something to the LLM, we need to be very clear. For example, in a desired tone as well. And if I want some draft, a mail to a client, but I don't want to be very rude and very clear to them. I want to be very formal and polite. I can mention the same in that same email, and I can actually do the same in the LLM. Apart from that, there are some other principles like show the desired format. If I want, example, a table, uh, export to Excel file if I want something. So in that case, I can actually put a particular data and I want that data to be put in an Excel file. I can ask that LLM and it will actually provide the exact format. So it exactly provides what we asked for. In So after that, when we have this front load instructions, place core instructions at the beginning of the prompt. Like, we cannot just move vague in any kind of prompting. We have to be very clear as mentioned in this first principle. And again, there are, like, in prompt engineering, it is always a refining process. You cannot just maybe get the correct result in the first prompt. So it comes with more practice and more refinement. uh Excuse me, just give me 1 minute, I am getting an urgent call. Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned, that iterate and refine means it is kind of a very much trial and error process. You cannot, like, for example, the coders, they always don't get the code right sometimes in the first attempt. They have to refine it, they have to make changes. It goes the same with prompting as well. So it actually has to be more refined to get the right result. And there are some other techniques that I have listed here, which is basically very useful in different kind of scenarios. So zero shot prompting is mostly used for simple tasks, like for example, create one meeting for me. I can show that right now in Gemini. It's very easy. Let me just open my Gemini. And if I'm explaining here in a very easy way, this Gemini, my Gemini is already connected with my Google Workspace. So my calendar is already integrated with Gemini. So for example, I ask my Gemini here, uh, please set up a meeting with Ananya at 5:30 p.m. today. See, I am here very specific about the time, about the person, and about the intent. That is a meeting. So when I just type this, let's see what it does. So as we see that Google Calendar is already synced. And now let's see, without opening this link, whether my meeting with Ananya has been set up or not. Let me open my Google Calendar. And if I see today, here we see meeting with Ananya got scheduled here. Even without touching this create tab and then selecting on event and then selecting on time and guest. Here Ananya is actually not defined, but if I would have mentioned Ananya's actual email ID, then it would have sent the same request to that same person. So, so much of things we saved so many minutes, so many maybe seconds by just giving one prompting to Gemini. And this can be done if your other LLM is linked to your particular calendar. I am just showing Google Calendar because it is most of us use it for both professional and personal tasks. So in that way, you can also, this was basically, I actually covered one of the cases under Gemini that I was going to cover later, but this became interesting to discuss with the zero shot prompting. So I actually also explained that. This is just a simple task I just mentioned. And maybe, like as we mentioned, initial baseline testing and general summarization. So, general summarization of any big document, anything we think that it is too much for us to read at that particular point of time and at one go. Say, for example, we have so many in AS and IFRS, and maybe for me, I also read ASC standards. For these, when we are reading all of these things, it is not possible for us to read each and every line. So when we actually add the document to our any of the LLM, be it Gemini, be it Claude, be it ChatGPT, it is very easy for us to ask questions and give any scenario which it will give the answer to. But now one question comes is, are all the answers that we always get from Gemini, they are correct, get from ChatGPT if they are correct, get from Claude if they are correct. So now here comes our technicality, our role as a chartered accountant to vouch for that answer. Our task is easier, yes, but our task is also now riskier because we cannot fully actually depend upon an AI model to just give answer. In that way, it can not replace the CS. That is one thing. So, apart from that, there are some other prompting techniques as shown on the screen, like you see that chain of thoughts, think step by step, And all these things, like, we can understand complex logic, mathematics, multi-step problem solving, anything. Like if you want to know the pricing structure of a particular financial instrument, like that, if you want to understand, and it will require a lot of strategic financial management knowledge. So you can ask that, you are already someone who is specializing in this kind of strategic financial knowledge, and you have to give me the advice. So you can assign the role to any of the LLMs, and they will act like that. In our personal lives also, suppose, though it is not advisable, but any kind of personal finance that we do, if we are actually running out of time, we can actually also ask, but later vouch definitely, that why are we having this kind of, say for example, any kind of saving rule. What is the 50, 20, 30% of the rule? You can ask, you can understand. But yes, definitely all these will require a backing of an accountant. Yeah. So these are basically, like, as we also discussed, role-based prompting and few shot prompting. So this actually works where you are working with a large amount of data, and not everything is possible in one shot prompting. So yeah, these are some of the basic prompting techniques that we know. And like, it is an example after I mentioned that before, when I say write a poem about OpenAI. Now say I will tell, write something about IFRS 15, but they will give you all the things about IFRS 15, whatever is available. But now if I ask that, what is the role of the transaction price in one of the five steps of IFRS 15, if I ask that much, and if I give that specific directed answer, so in that way, it will be very different. I can show you the same in any small example here. What is IFRS 15? If I just ask this, it will give me answer by analyzing all the things that we know about IFRS 15. But if I want to be more specific about my industry, like, how does a SaaS, software as a service company, applies the principles of IFRS 15 to record revenue for subscription SKUs? SKUs are the units or the materials that we generally have. So if I actually question this to the LLM, it will have a more refined answer. Again, when I am actually having all the steps of IFRS 15, you can see that it is giving me answer according to the contract of a SaaS company. For a SaaS company, we sign a service level agreement, and then we give the service queue, and then distinct services, bundled services. These are the things, if you notice, if we had asked here, for example, in the first one, we did not get much. So here comes our role in prompting as a CA. Because as a CA, we will know our technical knowledge better, and we will have better idea to give a good prompt. So this is basically one example that I have. And like you have here, that we have to give some of the context and some of the structured format. How are we going to get the data that will help us to get better results? So basically, as summed up, I am actually here telling you something about the CASA and CARE framework, how we can actually create a better prompt. So, like you see that some of the key contexts and talking points of the CASA framework is, C is context and role. Who? Who are you? Establish the AI professional standing. Like, act like an auditor, as I mentioned here in this one. Act like an auditor. Act like a bank manager. Act like the internal auditor. These are the roles that we actually are serving in our real life. Though it doesn't mean that when we are asking them to act like this, we are totally relying on them. Here comes again and again, I am telling our role to vouch and verify the data that LLM is giving us. So, yes, in a way, we can never be replaced. Now, the second thing is action. So, action is what? Draft. Example, draft the internal control. Since I mentioned you are acting as an internal auditor, you have to draft the internal controls of this particular section. Specifics and constraints. How? So, in internal auditing example, we define the scope. For example, if we are doing SOX controls, we are defining SOX 1, SOX 2. These are the things that we are, what is the scope of these reports, how much are we auditing, and who are the people involved, everything. And then again, the format, it is a very important thing. Example, if you want to also have a good audit report ready without even drafting it by yourself, you can actually mention that. You can mention that I need this thing, I need this audit report. So it will be in a very easy format. And this is basically the care is something which I kind of have it drafted by the thing that we as a CA do. Again, the context, action, requirement, and example. If we align this, it is almost same as the CASA framework. And these are the things which will help us go for prompt engineering and get our prompts better. Till now, any questions?
Hello.
Yes, Nikita.
Not yet received.
Okay. Okay. I will proceed with the remaining sections.
Yeah.
Okay. So once the prompting is done, now comes the major part where basically we have many use cases. I have taken LLM as Gemini, where actually I can analyze using Gemini many things. Like I showed you, the Google Calendar productivity, you can also actually assign instead of creating events, you can create tasks and appointment schedules. So this is basically some of the things we can use the Google Calendar for. And it is actually making our tasks easier. So be it any practitioner, mostly the practitioners have, they have so many meetings in a day. And every time if they keep on going and going to the calendar and opening and creating a task, so it is going to be, and also maybe to assign something to the articles, some kind of reminders you need to put. For every reminder, you cannot go to the calendar, you cannot add the task, you cannot add the people. You just have to have that basic understanding of prompting so that your tasks become easier for your productivity. Okay, here is one suggestion which I haven't mentioned here. One suggestion for my side is you actually can do one thing, that while you are having this prompt engineering, your prompts ready, it is always advisable to have one spreadsheet or one document or maybe one folder ready where you can maintain that as a prompt library, because you want to save your time for not writing the prompt again and again or not drafting the prompt again and again. You can open a simple spreadsheet. You can have different tabs for each and every task that you are doing, and under that tasks tab you can actually put the prompt that you are going to use and keep it as a reference. You can share it with your team so that when they are also replicating the task, they are also able to see it and actually use those prompts for their own tasks as well. It is really a great thing that I personally do, so that even for my personal tasks as well, if there are any prompts that you need it handy, you can maintain a personal sheet and you can actually add the prompts in the prompts library of your own. This is definitely going to come handy for you whenever you are doing any kind of repetitive tasks. Like if you are filing any GST returns, you want some kind of return in any particular format, or you are sending any recons to any clients, you are sending any follow-up emails to the client, you can actually make that as a prompt library and add and store it there. So again, if I actually see, one second. Huh. The second one I have is spreadsheet analyzer. It is a very simple thing. It looks very simple, but it is a very, very good tool that Gemini can do. And even for ChatGPT as well. But here I am taking one example of one LLM. So, example say I have the general ledger of, one second. Yeah. I have the example of one GL account of some company. This is just a random data, and this has all the credits and debits of that company's GL, and all the currencies also mentioned in this. What we can do is we can take this data, say, let's first create a pivot of this data, insert pivot table, or you can ask Gemini, like here, like I have done a small pivot of it by asking Gemini instead of me doing it. So that also you can do. But if after that you want to analyze, like which customer or maybe which head of expense has the most occurrence. Let's see what Gemini provides. Based on here, the general ledger data, travel expense with a total of 412 entries. So if we want to see that, what can we do? We can here, to verify that, we can actually create a pivot and check whether it has done its job or not. So if I just enter a prompt here, or maybe create a new sheet. Let's create a new sheet, and let's add the account name here. Let's go here, account name under rows. If I add, and number of entries, if I want to see, let's see, row name, sort by account name, ascending, descending, credit and debit. Okay, let's do it by transaction date. It should be appearing under the totals. If I go here, you see, it has given, it's just for reference. Transaction date is never meant to be under values, but for our show, we saw that count of transactions is 412 under travel expenses, for which we got just a simple answer from Gemini asking it, which actually helps us prove that Gemini can be used as a spreadsheet analyzer. This is just a small data that we showed, but you can use it for many functions. You can use it for account aging reports, account reconciliations, and see. Suppose you are not able to match your reconciliation, you can ask Gemini what is the reconciliation not matching and what happened after some point of time where it stopped to match, where it could go wrong. It will also give you such kind of analysis, which sometimes our human eye misses. It actually helps us provide that. Similarly, document analyzer also, if you open any kind of, say, Word document, you can actually, this I currently don't have any example right away, but it actually acts like a document analyzer as well. If you open any kind of Word doc in Google Docs, it will be actually able to give you answers and questions. If you ask questions, it will be able to give you answers regarding these documents. And like I also mentioned, since our Gemini is here also connected with email, our Gmail as well, so we can also analyze our Gmail with Gemini. Let's ask Gemini, give me the latest email from ICAI regarding membership fees. Let's see what answer, because I remember I got one mail today regarding membership fees. Let's see if I'm able to get. Yes, this is my latest email key detail, and it has also given the link to that. So if I go here, we get all the links, and latest one we will get for this one. This is one example, but this is, you can also ask from different client perspective, because even after you label those emails under separate clients, it is very difficult to ask about a particular situation, what happened with that client in that day. So if you remember those things and if you add this, like I mentioned, it is an LLM. So once LLM starts actually understanding your words, it will give you a chain of thoughts which will actually match with the desired output. Like here, which I mentioned, the particular mail that I wanted to find, but it might have missed. It is today, I understand, but if I would have searched for 2025, it would have given me. That is the magic of any kind of LLM that we use in our productivity. So these are few of the things and the Gemini use cases that I have. Okay, so since I have almost covered most of it, there are some of the miscellaneous tools and suggestions that I want to cover in this as a part of the last portion, last phase of this training that I am covering. So basically, here I am trying to also explain one important thing, that is the CAGPT. Here, CAGPT is very important for the new CAs, for any of the CAs who are using any of the accounting technical knowledge into their work and want to refer to any of the particular standards and ask questions regarding that. So I'll just show quickly CAGPT. You can actually log in. This is by ICAI, and you can actually log in here. I'll just quickly do a login and you can showcase. Get the OTP. But yeah, so CAGPT list is a wonderful place where you can refer to any of the things. So how it is, like people might ask now that how it is different from the knowledge portal that we have, all the things that we have in the e-journals or anything. Like, so I will show you one magic here. Accounting Standards Board. Now let's see. This is basically say I want to ask about any of the particular, like we were referring to IFRS 15. Let's ask, what is the IFRS 15? How do we now apply IFRS 15 to construction company instead of, say, SaaS company? Now let's ask. Now it will give you the core knowledge that we have about any accounting standard that we are there. It is not just getting the knowledge from all the sources that is had. This is basically very much related to the ICI knowledge base. And ICI being the highest knowledge base for accounting in India, this is the best place to actually search your technical knowledge background if you are stuck somewhere for any particular situation or case. So this one is really the one that we actually were wanting, and it has clearly explained it in a very good position where we can understand how it actually should be. It has also given very nice example and a summary as well. So this is just one example. There are several GPTs where you can refer to the acts and the regulations, any internal audit standards, and the Digital Accounting Assurance Board, any corporate laws, whatever a CA needs. It is kind of the CA's knowledge base where you actually can refer to any of the technical material without searching through all the PDFs or all the texts that you have or all the guidance notes that you have. Even you can also go through the e-journals, and if you have missed any update you can actually check here. So it's basically a gold mine for the CAs, what I understand. Yeah, so this is one of it. And in chat GPT also similarly, if you want to create say this is now I have come to chat GPT because it is an easy way to create a new GPT for you. So if you don't want so many knowledge base and you want only knowledge base of one or two PDF documents or one or two technical backgrounds knowledge of your, then you can create a GPT here. And how do you create that? You can put your query here. Say, for example, I want to take another example of same ASC 606. If I actually want to make a GPT and make a simple chatbot kind of a thing here, that I want the answers to these questions only specific to say ASC 606 if I'm working on, if I'm putting it here, and then after that, I can configure it. If I am naming my GPT as say ASC, say, sorry, ASC 606 advisor. You can name anything, have a small description, and you can ask basically what you want it to do. You can ask, I want you to give me a case study based summary of this. How do we have this? And then you can keep conversation starters. Like, suppose someone will be asking questions today in less amount of time. It is like I won't be able to explain much, but this is basically a very much you can say DIY kind of a thing, and you can actually ask the question that you want it to ask, or how, what do you want me to do today, like this. And then from here you can upload the files, your technical background materials, whatever you have, and then you can create your own GPT. Creating your own GPT has never been easier. And then once that GPT is live, you can ask any questions to that GPT, so regarding that particular topic that you actually have. So this is one of the good things about chat GPT, what I have noted. And some tools lastly I want to actually give from the perspective of finance professionals, like Notebook LM and Asana are the ones mostly I think auditors will like it more, because in audit, when we actually see some kind of maybe the invoices or the bill receipts or bank statements of any particular client, so it is always, again as I mentioned, some eyes also actually cannot capture small details that we have. So let me give a small example of Notebook LM as well. Uh, Here I have Notebook LM login. Yeah, let's see. This is where you can create a notebook. Let's create a new notebook where I will upload, suppose, sample files for invoices. Invoice sample 1 and invoice sample 2. Let me add it here. So when we add any kind of documents here and put all the documents at one place, it will be able to create a correlation between all the sample or all the documents that you have, or all any of the links that you have. and it will be able to create a better answer. For example, this is more of like you can use many documents together and it gives a faster result. This is something which I kind of feel that auditors are very, it will be very helpful to the auditors because you will be able to understand many details without going through them by your own. So before that, if I may show that particular document, invoice sample one, Adobe. Yes. It is a simple sample document and it is just taken off the web to maintain confidentiality. But you can see that what kind of services have been described here. Premium membership, monthly promotional code, and some kind of USD amounts are here. Transaction date, transaction ID. If I go to Notebook LM and ask, give me all details about sample 1. Now let's see what it gives us. Instead of checking all the things one by one, you can get all the details together here and you can vouch and verify from your raw data that you have gotten from the client from verifying through the invoices. So this is basically everything you need, date generated, and then you can just have data and also ask like now these two are unrelated invoices. Say for example, this one was a invoice and this one was a bill receipt. We could have asked whether the bill date of invoice and bill date of the bill receipt is the same. So in that way, it would have analyzed two of these samples and two of them they could have taken together and they would have told yes or no. So this is the magic here. What some of the tasks that we think that it is very manual, we will always allocate these tasks to the GPTs or the AI tools here. And another one, the small, it's actually a very important one. I have Asana here. Asana is a project management. Okay. Asana is a project management software where, for example, you can add the names of your articles or the team members, whosoever working under you. And then, like, for example, I have created a small sample of the dashboard, how it looks. I am actually acting as the manager of this project where this is like basically this is my sample project plan. Once you log in, it will have everything and whosoever want to be assigned to these tasks, you can assign them, and it is basically a project management software where you can actually see the timeline of the tasks and see the dashboards, everything. So it is basically a place where you see all your tasks together and all the things that you want to assign to other people. This is one small thing I wanted to tell about Asana. And the last thing, it's a very interesting one. I want to explain this about the thing that, for example, when we on a personal level also trade in shares or stocks or anything, there we actually don't know how to understand how the things about a particular stock is actually going to perform, or how is the report, what is the portfolio stock says. And for example, if we are checking any kind of futures or options or any mutual funds, so one website which is very nice and very helpful for us finance professionals is screener.in. So Screener is a place I am already logged in. So here you can search for any of the company, and this is one of the best uses of AI in finance data. Why? Because it actually gives so much of data information which you would have had to go personally and check them into the company's website, and mostly that would have been a very cumbersome process. So say for example, I want to actually analyze whether I want to buy a particular stock or not, or if some person is under client advisory, that whether they want to understand whether this client should buy this thing or not. So this is basically a very important tool to analyze. And definitely the data that we have the technical knowledge and the understanding of this particular area where we can understand whether the company is doing well or not, but this is just making our presentation easier. Now let's search for Reliance. So Reliance Industries Limited example. So if we see here, Reliance Industry Limited has all the data here for the company, everything. Now when we have all these data, it is also again very difficult to analyze from this event, because if we are wanting to do a very detailed analysis, we will need again some help of GPT, which I can tell you now. Let's export to Excel. Okay, this is already exported. And now let's open. Okay, so one tip here is I want to tell that in Claude, the analysis of any financial data is a bit seamless process than Gemini or ChatGPT. So here I am using Claude to analyze this data. Let me just open data. I can show you a previous analysis I think I have done. Not now. Yes. So it was just a basic question I asked, that analyze. I actually added that same report. You can attach any kind of report here. Maybe if it is a PDF form, a Word form, or Excel, or an image, you can attach anything here from, and then analyze. You can ask and you can give a better prompt. This is just for a sample example. I am actually asking, like, you are act as a SEBI investor. Sorry for here, I should have mentioned you should act as a SEBI registered stock advisor. Analyze this report from Reliance Industries and tell me whether I should buy the stock now or not. So this is a very nascent kind of a question, and this can be actually improvised as per your risk appetite. And again, this is not at all a replacement of a real stock advisor or a person with real knowledge. So this is just to aid your process of getting the research done. So as you can see, it has given some kind of a cautionary that only buy if at this particular is there situation. So this is going to give you so many insights about all the trends about this revenue and net profit, the operating cash flow in charts. So it has already analyzed. If you go to screener, you wouldn't have found that same so much of things in this, though data is there, but the data is much better analyzed in Claude. And you can take a small calculated decision with your own decision and risk appetite whether to buy the stock. Again, as you see here, they have also provided the disclaimer that this analysis is for educational purposes and it is not a SEBI registered investment advisor. Again, you have to consult some registered advisor. This is the thing. But doesn't it make the process much easier than you just throwing stone in the bush randomly? Because it will give you so much of knowledge and so much of analysis for this particular stock. And you can do it for any other portfolio, or you can do it for any other financial data analysis for this one. Okay. Before ending the session, I want to actually give a small insight into this LLM language model. This is just the last portion of my webinar where I want to actually warn and put a disclaimer to all of you that for any of the LLMs that you use, always note that in any of the LLMs, you will always have a permission that you have auto provided while using that LLM, that you can use that particular data for training other things. Like when LLM uses your data, it also uses the same data for training other models or other things inside when people are asking. So I can tell you all the three places where how to switch that thing off so that your important client data doesn't get used for training other models or training other data. So for Gemini, it's very easy stuff. You can just go to settings, you can go to activity, and then you can, since it is on for me, I can keep it off. So if you see, if you're turning off the Gemini activity, you though won't get all the list and the history that you had, but your data gets safer here. And again, under Chat GPT, you can do the same setting as uh, from here, settings, mm, data controls, improve the model for everyone. I have put it as off. So you can also do the same if you don't want your personal data or maybe your client data, corporate data to actually go out. And number three, the third and the last, Claude also has the similar setting. I'll just quickly show settings, privacy, and from here you can just help improve Claude. You can put it as off. And I think I am done with my webinar today. That's all. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, there are few questions. First
Yes.
is how to connect our Gemini with our Google Calendar.
Yeah. So it's basically, if I actually have to answer the question, once you log into your Gemini, you will have an automated link whether you have to connect the workspace or not. There will be some permissions which will be required. You have to allow the access so that you can actually connect. For me, it is generally auto connected because I have already given the permissions. But you have to allow all the workspace like inbox, your Gemini, your Google Workspace, and any G Drive also, all these permissions you have to give so that you actually can connect with it.
Next is, can't there be a project created within AI where we can do repetitive tasks?
Where we can do repetitive tasks. Yes, like there can be projects. We will need definitely some of the task list which we want to do. And after that, you can put that same task list into one folder and ask and prompt the GPT which you are using to do that same thing. And there are many GPTs as well inside which I mentioned that can do the same task. Like, for example, if you just instruct it, so it will be able to perform the task.
Can any other LLM give similar result as given by CAGPT if your prompt specifically asks them to search ICA website and give us the result?
It can, but it cannot as well. Like it will be a very much uh, so what happens is LLMs are built on how you are prompting. Even if I am prompting and also upon your past, suppose for example your history was on, or any Gemini, suppose I asked to Gemini about any of the thing, whatever I am asking might not be the same as what you are asking. This will be also same even if we have the same prompt. So this is one thing that we have to keep in mind. But CAGPT is having the knowledge base as only the things that we are dealing with. So it will give a very specific thing. So all the BOS knowledge portal stuff that we have, as well as the member directories and member journals that we have, they are the form and base of the CAGPT. But for any of the other GPTs, the base model, I mean the source, the knowledge source can be any of the places. So it will be a very vast thing to consider instead of just some of the dedicated knowledge things that we have.
That's all. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the insightful section. Thank you to all participants for taking out time and making a section successful. Now, I will invite a second moderator, CA Niharika ma'am, to introduce our second speaker. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It gives me pleasure to welcome our esteemed speaker for second half of the session, CA Shravanya Gunipuri
Hmm?
ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am, you are.
Thank you so much. She brings with her a wealth of experience in the field of social entrepreneurship, and we are truly fortunate to have her with us today. Before we begin, let me briefly introduce our speaker. A brief profile of CA Shravya Gunupuri ma'am is she is a highly accomplished senior audit manager with more than 9 years of experience in external audit, SOX compliance, and internal controls for PCAOB and AICPA regulated US engagements. She leads cross functional teams, enhances audit quality, and drives efficiency through data driven and AI enabled initiatives, including US India integration. She brings strong expertise in US GAAP, IFRS, goodwill impairment, risk management, and end to end audit execution, along with proven strengths in stakeholder and project management. A consistent high performer, she has earned multiple fast track promotions and recognition for leadership excellence. We are eager to learn from your insights and experience. I warmly welcome you to the session. Over to you, ma'am.
All right. Hi, everybody, and a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was amazing. And a very big thank you to the panel members who have actually put in so much effort on the back end to make this program a success. The effort shows, and this is actually a very brilliant initiative. I'm here to talk about social entrepreneurship. And before I do that, I do want to mention that as chartered accountants, I think we have a diverse skill set that we can utilize. And on the sidelines, I've had this habit, and I've asked everybody in my circle to build this habit of getting hobbies, garnering hobbies that could actually shape your financial strengths. My personal hobbies are writing. I'm a published author. I play sports. I'm into crafting, and I've been able to use these hobbies in my ability and journey to move towards a social entrepreneurship platform, which is what I'll discuss today. Let me share my screen. All right. So today's topic is social entrepreneurship in India, driving sustainable impact in a digital world. I'll start with the agenda, and then we'll move on to understanding what this actually is, because it is a broad spectrum term, something that a lot of us probably don't have a lot of insight into, and we might not be able to understand how, as chartered accountants, we can play a really important role in social entrepreneurship. Today, we'll be looking at first understanding what this term means, understanding the importance and relevance in India, how the digital age has enhanced opportunities, how one can become a social entrepreneur, any challenges and realities in the real world, along with some case studies, and then we'll perform a final futuristic reflection as well. The reason why the first, the second, and the fourth topics are important is because while there are chartered accountancy opportunities from a finance aspect of social entrepreneurship, there are a lot of chartered accountants who want to become social entrepreneurs as well. And that means to give back to the society, to combine your finance mind with your ability to pitch, to create impact, and to put something out there in the world that could benefit everybody. So we'll cover all the aspects of it and understand how we can help one another, how we can use this model as chartered accountants to drive existing social entrepreneurs and to guide social enterprises that are yet to come up. Let's start with understanding social entrepreneurship. To do this, take a moment and think about one social cause that you see around you. It could be something local, it could be something in your community. Think about some problem that lasts, and how do you think that problem can actually be fixed? That is where social entrepreneurship comes into play, and that is exactly what social entrepreneurs do, but in a scalable and structured fashion. Let's start with understanding this. First, social entrepreneurship is a business model that serves social problems. That means you're combining a business with impact to the society. And that is what social entrepreneurship is about. The second thing is that it combines profit and purpose. And this is where we come in. We understand profit really well. So if we can combine our understanding of profit with the purpose of giving back to the society, then that makes that team of social entrepreneurship indispensable. And that is what we're trying to drive today. And we'll get into the further aspects of why it is important, why we should look into moving towards this angle. But for now, the main thing to understand is what is exactly the difference among NGOs, social entrepreneurship, and a business entrepreneurship. This is something that I get as a question a lot. And the answer is as simple as saying an NGO asks, who did we help today? An entrepreneur asks, how much profit did we make today? And a social entrepreneur asks, did we create any impact? And do we have sufficient finance to put back into our business and give more sustainable impact to the society? And that is broadly the difference, because NGOs, they don't have a profit purpose. So they only have impact creation as their model, whereas entrepreneurs only have profit and wealth creation as their model. Somewhere between these two comes social entrepreneurship. The very key fact of social entrepreneurship is to create impact that is sustainable and scalable, which we'll see a little bit down the line. But understand that these are the two key terms that you need to have in case you want to be a social entrepreneur or you're helping somebody who wants to start a social enterprise. Here are some key areas in which social entrepreneurship takes place. The first is education. You have a foundation called Akshaya Foundation. You also have a foundation called Teach for India. So they've collaborated and they provide educational outcomes, and they have a social entrepreneurship division. What they do is they invite high quality teachers to come and teach in underprivileged areas, basically bridging that quality gap that you often see in education that is trying to be given to the underprivileged section of the society. So by doing this and by creating art melas and art functions, they are getting donations, giving a service, which is art. They're teaching students who are underprivileged with quality education and building a social enterprise alongside their other business models. So by doing this, they have reached millions of children. They're able to help so many people across the country. And one small example is this Teach for India program. So you can go back and check it out. But this is one example I have. There are other institutions as well, of course, but this is one in the line of education that I wanted to talk about. The next is healthcare. And this is something we'll look into as part of the case study. But the one main social entrepreneur that comes to mind is Arvind Eye Care. They provide cataract surgeries at low cost or for free. They started with health camps. Now they've digitalized it. We'll talk about it more in detail. But that is an example of healthcare social entrepreneurship. And then we have environment. There is a program called Selco India, which does energy efficiency in India and the rural areas where there is no electricity. Another case study we'll be looking at, so I will not go very deeply into this, but that is one aspect of the environment that we can focus on. And then we have livelihood. Now, livelihood is actually divided into two: women empowerment and general livelihood. Women empowerment is such a key factor of social entrepreneurship today. I'm from Hyderabad, and you will see a lot of social entrepreneurs targeting women development, be it in entrepreneurial ventures, be it in their education, be it in building employability, making them on par with their male counterparts, providing them with insight and exposure. So there are a lot of social entrepreneurs in this cause, and that is for women entrepreneurship. But one name comes to mind when you talk about this, and that is Mr. Ranjan Mistry. He's from Bihar, and he is under the Forbes 30 under 30 list, one of the youngest social entrepreneurs who has really dedicated his life to helping millions of people, including women. And he has built a women entrepreneurial college where young girls and women come together and they learn how to become self-sufficient and financially independent. So that is one aspect of livelihood. Now there's another section. We have something called the National Center for Promotion of Employment for disabled people. That's another livelihood aspect of social entrepreneurship, where they're targeting providing employability and other key skills for the disabled section of the society. Broad spectrum, I'm explaining what social entrepreneurship will go into how understanding this will help us understand where we fit in as chartered accountants. And if you are interested in becoming a social entrepreneur, then these are the key aspects that you want to look into, because this is what is accepted today. On that note, we'll move on to some key characteristics of what makes a social entrepreneurship. These key characteristics will help you define where you fit in each of these buckets, and I'll give you examples as well. First, a social entrepreneurship venture has to be mission-driven. It's not something that you just randomly start. There has to be a clear-cut purpose, and you need to have a social issue that you're trying to solve. So that is the primary key characteristic of a social entrepreneur. The second and the most important is that it needs to be innovation-led. What this means is creativity plays a huge role in driving a social entrepreneurship. And this is one aspect where chartered accountants, I've seen in the past, I've been a part of this as well. We have creative solutions of creating profits and of reinvesting these profits. Think about problem areas, think about goal setting, and how we can partner with existing social entrepreneurs to drive innovation and to make these ventures large scale. Similarly, mission statements or any due diligence reports that are required by these social entrepreneurs are areas where we can actually help out and provide structure to the existing cause. I've been associated with a few social entrepreneurs in the past, and while doing so, there were multiple opportunities, which I'll talk about when we get there. But one key area of opportunity that I had noticed is that they were struggling to put structure to their mission. They knew what they wanted to do, which is to empower female students. But they didn't know how. They didn't know how to convince people. They did not know how to put structure to their idea and show measurable impact. That is where we come in. And that is how we can help these people in building a base for themselves and to take the social entrepreneurship to a larger level. Now, remember, social entrepreneurs have consultants who are chartered accountants, MBAs, or any educational stream, and they pay these consultants, which again comes out of funding, to provide these services. So this is not like a free service. It would obviously not be at a corporate level, but there are fee-based services that you can provide as a chartered accountant. You can also provide voluntary services in addition to give back to the society. Now, when you talk about innovation-led, one person comes to mind, and that is Mr. Bill Drayton. Mr. Bill Drayton started the Ashoka Foundation in 1980, and this is in Karnataka. And the key reason that this person or this mission are important is because he defined social entrepreneurship. He paved the way for a lot of new generation social entrepreneurs. What he did was he said, if you want to be a social entrepreneur, you need to have some key characteristics. And those are creativity, which is very important, an entrepreneurial mindset, your ability to drive a business. And it might, while the core target might not be profit, do you have what it takes to drive a business? And then your ethical fiber. Ethical fiber is your ability to be ethical, honest, trustworthy, and stay true to your cause without wavering, thinking about, profits. So he defined creativity as two key factors. He said, creativity is the combination of goal creation and problem solving. And if you can get creative in setting short-term, long-term goals, and if you can get creative in solving problems in ways that other people haven't, then you've already made it. And these are two very key target areas for chartered accountants to take the charge. This is something that a lot of social entrepreneurs struggle with, because while they know that they have the passion to create a change, they do not know how to do it. And while this might not be the case for the established businesses, think about a lot of social entrepreneurs in your community, in your locality, who are starting out. They will definitely have this concern. The next key characteristic is financial sustainability. Obviously, no social entrepreneurship can survive purely on donations and grants. That will not help us, because the moment those donations or grants stop coming in, or there is a pause, or there is a delay, or there are some regulatory changes, your ability to create impact comes down as a social entrepreneur. So in order to create impact on a consistent basis, the goal is to be less dependent on external funding and to focus on self-sufficiency. Focusing on self-sufficiency means finding ways and means of making profits. That's basically what it means. How do you generate money and help the underprivileged at the same time? And this requires some thinking depending on the type of social entrepreneurs that there are. We'll see some examples, but here is another excellent opportunity for CAs. The next one is scalable solutions. When you want to build a social entrepreneurship mission, you don't do it for your community. You do it with India in mind. You probably do it with the globe in mind. That is what scalability is. You start small, but then you wonder, is your solution something that can actually be taken to a larger extent? Can you actually build a solution that can be utilized across the globe or across the country? That is what scalable solutions are. You start it at a ground level and then you design it to ensure that it grows, it can replicate, and it can suit diverse populations with different needs. And lastly, like we discussed, measurable impact. If you're trying to convince the public that you're doing something for them, you need to be backed by numbers. And I think it's to me, when I first was approached for social entrepreneurship by a few enterprises, I was surprised that they had everything in place, but zero measurable impact. So when they were trying to approach corporates for CSR funding, which is, by the way, another way that funding happens, is not just through the government, it happens through CSR initiatives. We do have the Section 135 under our Companies Act, which specifies that CSR funding, like corporates need to set aside a certain amount of funds for CSR. And as chartered accountants, our role in bridging the CSR funding needs with the social entrepreneurs is to bring them together, which is something we can do with our expertise and our knowledge of the Companies Act. And Schedule 8 of that act talks about what are some of the missions that we need to focus on and the social entrepreneurs need to focus on to be eligible for CSR funding, which is the ones we just discussed in the prior slide. But how do you approach CSR? How do you approach governments for funding? How do you approach public for crowdfunding if you cannot show measurable impact? You saying that I've helped a lot of females and children in educating themselves is not measurable impact. You need to talk about the number of students, the number of sessions, what those sessions were, what is the percentage of students who passed. These are measurable impacts. And there is honestly no better opportunity for chartered accountants than to propose our services in these certain outcomes. Now let's take a step back and talk about why social entrepreneurship important and relevant in India. What makes it necessary for us to actually focus on building social entrepreneurship in India and in encouraging the increase of social enterprises? First, we have a huge population, we all know this, which automatically means we have very diverse challenges. So in the beginning of this session, when I asked you, think about one problem that you have, I'm sure not everybody here had the same problem in mind. We come from different locations, we come from different geographies, and ultimately we have different issues. Some people might be struggling for water, some people might be struggling for electricity. I might think cleanliness is an issue, keeping India clean and green. There are multiple issues that you could have, diverse challenges, which also means there's diverse scope. So when there is an increased scope, we are welcoming an increase and a rise of social entrepreneurs. There's a huge rural-urban gap that we have and face here. It is something that we have seen across our childhoods as well. It's something that we are aware of. But how exactly do you bridge it? And here you might say, yes, there are government initiatives, but how far can they go? How penetrable are they and how customizable are they? Are they able to target every single region that needs help? And if not, then what is our alternative? And our alternative here is social entrepreneurs, because it is very difficult to expect an NGO to do all of this for free and depend on funding. But when you bring social entrepreneurs into the picture, it becomes slightly easier. Unemployment. We need social entrepreneurs to help tackle unemployment. And there are multiple ways that social entrepreneurs can actually do this. We will explore this as well. But think about broad spectrum, why India really needs social entrepreneurs. The other is climate change impact. We saw that one of the key features was environment, right? So climate change impact is actually large, it's looming large, and we do need social entrepreneurs to help us tackle this issue. And like we were talking about the rural-urban gap, there are gaps in public systems. There's a stage in which the government stops, and that is where social entrepreneurship begins. We're trying to create a seamless environment. So now, why is this slide important for you? It is for you to understand the background and the need for social entrepreneurs, how you can spread awareness, how you can identify that there are probably existing social entrepreneurs who need help. These are some of the aspects that will help you gain ideas, and you can either partner with existing social entrepreneurs or become a consultant in helping them bridge these gaps, get creative solutions, and also learn how to bridge this communications gap, because we can talk finance better than most others can. And that is the strength that we bring to the table. Now let's look at some areas of scope, and I will explain how I have done some of the work in these areas, okay? So first we have access to education, affordable health, waste management, women empowerment, and financial inclusion. These are broad spectrum areas of scope. We have seen these in the prior slides as well, but what we can do, and one main requirement is budgeting. A lot of social entrepreneurs struggle with setting the right budgets before asking for funding requirements. They do not understand how to budget it out and also have a little bit of an amount set aside for HR expenses. And HR expenses are nothing but consultant costs, the cost of actually sustaining this environment of social enterprises. So we can come in and provide these insights to the people. I've done this in the past, and when I had done this, a few key features that came out to me was that they were very confused about the actual cost it would take. So let's assume we'll take the example of affordable healthcare. They were pitching to the government to get a certain amount because they believed each patient cost would be that much into, let's say, 100 patients. That was their estimate. But what was the background for these numbers? Where were they getting the per patient cost? Where were they getting the 100 patient count? They didn't have an answer. It was a rough estimate. So that is where we step in. We look at prior year analysis. If it's a new organization, then we're going to look at competitors in the same industry. We're going to try and build more sustainable, more projectable figures, and when we're asking for a budget. And when I ended up doing that project, I realized that the budget they were requesting was far lower and would have set them up for failure had they not actually taken a step back and looked at what they could do with it. So this is one key aspect that we come into, is understanding the budgeting aspect of it, understanding the forecasting. And this is a key area of ours, a good strength that we have. The other one is financial literacy. Take the example of women empowerment. Building financial literacy is something that comes to us. I have volunteered to take a couple of sessions for free to help empower women financially. This is some part of it that you can give back. And this gives a rise to a lot more opportunities in the future that you can take part in as well. So think about how you can give back in addition to serving as consultants or helping out social entrepreneurs. That will help you build a network of people who can become a strong, reliable source for you. And at the same time, you're providing and giving back to the society in the way that you know best. The other aspects are, if you think access to education, how many cohorts are you teaching in? How many students are you expecting per session? What is the outcome that you're expecting? What is your measurable impact? These are some areas of scope that you can help out in as a chartered accountant. Another area that I did help with is creating pitch decks for corporate social responsibility and funding objectives, meaning creating PPTs, creating a list of what is the budget we need, why we need it, what is our success story, putting everything together in a structured and combined manner and putting it on a PPT to present to the CEOs and CFOs of corporates. This is one angle of it. You can also consider doing it in this method. You can consider bringing a network of people together and explaining productivity, explaining it to them in terms of what is the benefit to the society, what is the personal benefit. We have that unique position of power where we understand these things much better. And when there are follow-up questions, and this is the most important part, there are follow-up questions that come up. And when they do come up, we need to understand that we are better equipped to answer these follow-up questions than most others might be able to. And that sets the social entrepreneurship in a position of power, which is how you will sell yourself. You will talk about what you bring to the table. And that is one of the key aspects of it. We'll now move on to the digital age and opportunities. In the past, let's say prior to the early 2000s, it was very difficult for rural areas to compete with urban, which is still the case in a large way, but this has greatly reduced. Think about prior to e-commerce, prior to internet. How were these people actually sustaining themselves? How were the underprivileged actually living? How were these social entrepreneurs able to reach every single area? And prior to digital age, scalability was a very key concern. Now that is wiped out with digital age. Scalability has become much easier. So we'll look into some of the opportunities that exist because of the digital age and how we can use this to supplement us as well. So here's the role of the digital age. First is internet penetration. Now we see that most of the organizations, most of the communities do have internet, basic mobile phone internet is available. We'll talk about those sections which also don't have internet, but this is for the sake of these examples. A lot more villages and towns now have internet than they did a decade or so ago. One example here is the Khan Academy, which actually provides free online education for the remote access areas. All they need to do is log in through their mobile phone and they can access free education. But how do they afford this? They afford this by taking money from students who are not from these remote access areas, who are privileged enough to be able to afford good quality education. And then they pass down those funds and those profits to help these students. That is social entrepreneurship. That's one huge example of social entrepreneurship. Another one is understanding that the population has now become mobile first, meaning even if there is no internet connection at home, people do have mobile phones. And these mobile phones most probably have internet connections. One example is Practo. A lot of us are aware and have used Practo. Practo is an online doctor consultation tool. And while this does not come directly into social entrepreneurship, they have a foundation called Practo Foundation with a mission 10K cataract. That was their hashtag. And they provided 10,000 cataract surgeries to the underprivileged for free. That was their mission. And they did that through making use of this digital age, which increased the number of consultations. Now, let's assume there's somebody in a rural area who does not have an immediate access to a hospital. All they need to do is go on to Practo and you have consultations starting from ₹50 onwards. It's no longer the case where you need to travel, go sit in a line, wait for people, spend 500,000. Not many people really have the ability to do that. So this is a solution that Practo has come up with. And with the funding that had come from this, they had started that foundation to provide cataract surgeries. Digital payments. This is something we are all aware of. We're all using it. But think about all the small vendors who are able to use this, all the small merchants that are able to use this. Because these digital platforms also have a section of social entrepreneurship where really small merchants are not given, they don't take much of a commission for them. They either reduce or make the commission rates nil, helping these merchants actually build livelihoods for themselves. So that is the social entrepreneurship angle of these digital payments. Then you have social media reach. How many of you, when scrolling, Instagram, you would have come across organizations like Keto raising awareness for funds for medical emergencies, right? Social media has become one of the key platforms to market anything, and that includes social entrepreneurship. Keto is one example. We have multiple, but they raise funds, and the way they make money is through commissions. And those commissions range from 3 to 10%, and it depends on the cause. It depends on how much excess was raised. A lot of factors get into it, but this is a social entrepreneurship venture because they are not only helping improve the scalability and reach of the public, they are also making money through commissions. And then lastly, we already had a session on AI by Devlina, so I will not get into this a lot, but we do have a case study on Niramai, which is basically the usage of AI for breast cancer detection. This has actually been very helpful for remote areas as well. And the way this works is you don't need to take AI to the patient, you take the patient data to AI, which makes scalability very simple. Because this is a non-invasive procedure, and this is the usage of digital at the back end and not the front end. Now let's look at the case studies that I was talking about. We'll do a quick check of what we are understanding so that you understand what goes into the system of social entrepreneurship. We had Aravind Eye Care System. We spoke about this in the healthcare. So the issue here that they were trying to solve was preventable blindness and high cost of surgeries. And the solution they came up with was free treatment that was funded by cross-funding. Cross-funding is a method of funding in which there are patients who pay for the underprivileged society. So you basically take the funds from the people who can afford them and give them to the people who cannot. And then one aspect that really helped them was the high volume, low cost surgeries. They developed a system in which they could perform multiple low cost surgeries at a given point in time, which helped their operational and fixed expenses. And all of this came from consultations with chartered accountants. All these social entrepreneurship ventures have CAs associated with them, and they help out in ensuring that these problems are met with the right solutions. And the learning from this entire social entrepreneurship platform is that with the combination of efficiency, empathy, and impact, you can actually build a system that helps a large section of the people who generally cannot really avoid these kind of surgeries, because preventable blindness is very large right now. And getting surgeries for preventable blindness is very difficult. It costs a lot of money. A lot of people cannot really afford this. And this eye care system that was started by Arvind really paved the way for healthcare. And then we have Selco, which we already spoke about. The issue that they targeted was that there were rural households that they were aware of. They started in a very small community. They saw that there was no electricity, and that was affecting the way the children were able to study, affecting the way they can make income, because machinery requires electricity, and also was impacting safety. Think about streetlights. Think about stepping outside of your house. How do you do that in a safe manner? And the solution they came up with was customized solar energy solutions. And they approached banks to make this possible. And they had a tiered payment structure, which is again a suggestion coming from their accounts department, led by chartered accountants, where they said, let us categorize these rural households into multiple sections and charge them, let's say 5%. One section, which is the lowest income, gets 5%, 95% from the bank, and then 10%, 20%. They had percentages associated with how the funding would work out. And the learning from this case study is that when you're able to design your solutions for the user and customize them, then you bring about a large change that could actually help a lot of other people. This initiative was started in one single rural community, was developed for a lot of rural households, and energy efficiency was developed. And this is a system that cannot fail. So when people and corporates and banks see this kind of a system, they are investing in it, and that helps bring up the social entrepreneurship angle of it. Then we have Barefoot College, and this is a very interesting case study. Here, this took place in a small village where they noticed that there was a lack of employment among women, and they noticed a lot of gender inequality. To bridge that gap, they decided to train all the rural women, whether they were literate or not, to become solar engineers, which is very cool, because it is not the first thing you think of, but it is something that can help. And this is what we meant by generating employment through social entrepreneurship, is you take the people from these areas and you generate employment for them. So this led to a community of development and encouraged a lot of neighboring villages to do similar aspects of it. So the learning here is that the issue is not the lack of talent, the issue is the lack of opportunity, which is what we can learn from this case study. And we discussed Niramai. They use AI, and they realized that there was a lot of deaths because of late detection of breast cancer, and they came across an option of using AI and business-to-business funding, which helped them in organizing health camps and getting a section of the society to get their detection done in a timely manner. So they used technology and made healthcare affordable to a lot of people. let's look at some digital tools. And the reason this is important for us is because we have access to these digital tools, and a lot of chartered accountants actually help social entrepreneurs increase their reach by helping them utilize these digital tools, because not everybody understands these digital tools fully, and that is where we come in. That is a scope of opportunity for us as well. The first is UPI and fintech. This is something that the basis of which can be understood by social entrepreneurs, but we can dig deeper into the financial aspects of it and help in organizing various methods of payment, how to standardize their websites. These are some challenges that we can help overcome. Creating e-learning platforms, helping social entrepreneurs and the society in utilizing e-learning platforms, and what are the structural and financial fixed costs that get into e-learning platforms. For example, LinkedIn offers a service where they provide certification courses for free for the underprivileged. They do a sort of a social entrepreneurship venture themselves. So when they're doing that, they need, like, social entrepreneurs require chartered accountants to track and ensure that these are being utilized in a correct manner. This is something that financially we can help the social entrepreneurs with. Social media campaigns. We understand target audiences better. We have a network, and a lot of CAs are actually employed as consultants for their network, because that network brings in businesses. We work in different corporates. We work in many companies. We have a network of chartered accountants, and this is something that is very useful to spread awareness about social entrepreneurship. And naturally, data analytics. Data analytics is so important. We all understand the importance of it, but it is not so easy to explain this rather than to, involve yourself with it. So what data analytics does is it helps you in resource allocation. It helps you in ensuring that whatever you are doing, it has a right means for an end, and to make sure that whatever data is being collected by the analytics platform and the tools, similar to what Deblina was talking to us about, we could utilize these AI and in generating data analytics to help social entrepreneurs. Now, quickly, to become a social entrepreneur, and this is a stage in which a lot of new social entrepreneurs approach chartered accountants because they don't understand the aspects of it. But if you do want to become a social entrepreneur, one thing is you need to identify a problem that exists that you believe is a large-scale issue. And most often understand that those problems are not really the root causes. They are just the symptoms. So if you have a cleanliness issue, or if you say, okay, my roads are dirty, there's a lot of garbage on them, the issue is not that. The issue is that we don't have a system in place to get the cleanliness done. We don't have a structured database to help us cleanse the city, right? So that is the issue you want to tackle, not the fact that we have garbage everywhere. You need to build a solution for it, something that is small. You need to test it and validate it, and then think about your financial dependencies and scale your projects. Okay, that's how you become. And now here we talk about the registration process. It is not mandatory to register your business unless you're reaching out for funding. If you're just starting out as a social entrepreneur, you can provide insight and information to the social entrepreneurs, or if you're planning to become one yourself, you can, at the testing stage of it, you do not require registration. But there is a 5-step process. You do need to understand your legal structure, which is, are you a Section 8 company? Are you a private limited, an LLP? You need to define yourself. So there are 3 to 4 categories that you can go under. Ideally, it would be private limited if you're trying to look for, or a trust or a society, depending on the type of your social entrepreneurship venture. Then you need to study the name and the basic requirements. You need to fix a name that is unique, obtain DSC and DIN. And then you need to file the documents on the MCA portal, which, by the way, the MCA portal does have a dedicated section for social entrepreneurship. You can check the legal structures and understand the basic requirements. This is a process that chartered accountants help social entrepreneurs achieve. And then you have a certificate of incorporation, and then whatever other compliance requirements, such as PAN card, bank account, etc., that are required after your registration. Let's move on to the business models. And this is the key part of social entrepreneurship. How do you generate profits? So you need to understand what are the 5 broad spectrum business models, though you see multiple names everywhere depending on your source, but these are 5 broad spectrum. The first is a very normal one. It is the hybrid model. The hybrid model is nothing but where you have 2 sections. We've spoke about, let's say, Teach for India or Khan Academy. They have 2 sections. One where the privileged or the people who can afford are able to go through, and those funds are used for the underprivileged. So that's a hybrid model where you have a profit section and then you have a separate social entrepreneurship section. Then you have the pay it forward model. This is a model that you see little rarely here in India, but it is available in the United States. And there is a way that we can also make this more large scale in India. It basically means you approach a person and you say, can you also pay it forward? Meaning, can you pay a little extra than the cost price, because that will go towards funding XYZ. And you might have seen this in supermarkets where they have these bins, and then they're like, can you donate 1 rupee towards this movement, for example. So that's a paid forward type of model, but it's not very large scale yet. And then you have the 1-for-1 model, where a lot of social entrepreneurs will say, if you can fund one underprivileged person, we will fund one in return. So 1-for-1 model. You see this a lot in corporates as well, in social responsibility methodologies as well. They tell the employees that, you do this, and then if you donate X amount, then we'll donate the exact amount in return. And this is a model of business that works for social entrepreneurs as well. And then you have the employment model, like the Barefoot College, for example. You employ people from the underprivileged section of the society, you provide them with employment opportunities, and you develop their skills, train them, and make them self-sufficient. So there is this saying which says, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to fish and he'll eat forever. That's literally what you're doing in this employment model. And lastly, the cooperative model. This is a trust society type model where all the consumers, suppliers, they all come together. They have a share in the business. They all help. They network together, and they help their cooperative society and try to get ideas that are scalable across. Now let's look at some challenges. Obviously, the very first challenge that comes to mind is funding. It is very difficult to get funding. So it is important that there's a profit sharing model involved in social entrepreneurship, so that you don't depend entirely on grants or on CSR. Then you have scaling. A lot of models fail because of scalability issues. And there are a lot of failed entrepreneurial ventures where you can study these in your locality, in where you're staying, and find ways to differentiate and build scalability to bring up these models and make them successful instead. That is something that we as chartered accountants have the ability to do. So if you are really passionate about this, this is an area that you can focus on. Not just the established entrepreneurs, but those who are actually struggling to be established in scale. Now, I can tell you that not many of us know what social entrepreneurship is. I just joined this a couple of years ago. And before that, while I understood the term, I really didn't understand the depth of it. So there are a lot of awareness gaps, which I'm hoping would be my primary takeaway for this session would be if this is something that all of us together can try and bridge, because this is something that will really help us in explaining to our counterparts, our peers, and our organizations about how awareness can really take us far in understanding. Because if you're explaining social entrepreneurship to 10 people and even 2 are interested, we have done our job. So that is the awareness gap that we want to fill. We do have regulatory barriers. Like I said, for example, Section 8, your social entrepreneurship venture should fall into Section 8 under, Schedule 8 of Section 135 of the Companies Act to be eligible for CSR funding, right? One example of a restraint. So it does give us a barrier if, like, let's say the governments are changing. That causes issues. And then we have the main issue, which is the rapid changes. We are in a digital environment. Not everybody is technologically equipped with the ability to actually help rapid changes. And this is an area we'll see a little later, but our solution is to collaborate. You have experts in each field. We are experts in finance. You have experts who can help you with regulatory barriers. Collaboration is what can actually bring all of this down together. One question I wanted to address is the role of digitalization. What do you do when there are low infrastructure areas? Because you could ask me, yes, digitalization is helping. But what about those places which don't even have electricity, don't have internet? How do you reach these people? And that is something that we can also use digitalization to achieve. For example, you can think about hybrid models where you don't continuously need internet. You have digitalization in the background, but in the foreground, it is not for the end user. You're using it as a part of the social entrepreneurship. And you can help the social entrepreneurs build a hybrid model where internet is required for them, but they can reach people manually, where there is no infrastructure. There is also a very well-developed model called the intermediary model, where in a community, one household has internet, and it happens a lot in these lower, in these rural areas, is that one person trains the other people and builds a community among themselves. That is called the intermediary model. The third is low tech. So when Arvind IK started, they started with health camps, and then they moved to a digital aspect where they did some consultations online. So start with low tech. And then decentralized infrastructure. Basically what Celco did, they realized that electricity was an issue, and they fixed that problem. That could be the social entrepreneurship idea. Come down one level and fix the main issue first, right? And then you lastly have mobile leapfrogging. Mobile leapfrogging is a system in which you focus only on mobiles, and you don't actually focus on people having internet, laptops, or computers, because many areas might not have that. But mobile internet or data packs are more available. So you can try to provide mobile leapfrogging and make your platform, or suggest for the social entrepreneurs to have a platform that is accessible through mobile phones. And with that, we'll come to a final reflection where we talk about the future of social entrepreneurship. The future lies in tech-driven solutions. We cannot escape it. We cannot argue about it. There is a lot of talk about AI, right? AI is a form of these tech-driven solutions. There's a lot of debate on, will this replace versus will this supplement? That is something that we need to use in our ability to drive social entrepreneurship ventures. Youth participation. This is something that is so important, because a lot of innovation and creativity comes from the youth. And that means everybody, all of us involved, we need to participate in this and in shaping the future, because we understand, as the future generations, maybe the generations one level below us or two levels below us, we understand the needs better. So we need the youth participation. We need development goals to be sustainable. And now with digitization, there is no barrier for global collaboration. And that takes your interests very far-fetched, makes it a lot easier to scale when you believe in and can actually take part in global collaboration. The final thing I want to talk about is this quotation, which is that social entrepreneurship is not about being the best in the world, it is about being the best for the world. And that is the crux of what social entrepreneurship is. And I hope that with this, you have something to take back and something to reflect on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. But before we move further, we have some questions.
Sure.
The first question is, in short, how is charity different from social entrepreneurship?
Okay, so charity is where you are only trying to give money for a cause with no expectations in return. Whereas social entrepreneurship is the venture in which you do have an expectation of profit in return, and that profit is reinvested. It is used to help fund your HR, which is your consultants, your people who are running your social entrepreneurship. So it is a combination of a business and a charity. You're doing both.
Ma'am, one question is, please repeat about the scheme you mentioned for disabled people livelihood.
Okay, so there is a National Center for Promotion of Employment for Disability. So what this, and you can actually check it out. It is NCPEDB. Okay, that's what it does. The acronym is. And what they do is they provide opportunities for disabled. If you notice, corporates now have a quota that is available for different sections of the society: diversity, inclusion, equity. These are the triggers for us to start involving disability and people with a disability to come forward. And these centers also help in prosthetic limbs. They provide prosthetic limbs to help people move better. So that is a center that actually, it's a nationwide initiative that helps with that.
Ma'am, the last one is, in this digital era where tools are easily available, what unique value does a chartered accountant bring to a social enterprise beyond what technology can offer?
What technology can offer is an output for a layman who gives you a basic input. But what a chartered accountant can offer is an expertise in that financial subject. So while the tool can tell you what you need to do in a basic manner. Like we'll take Debina's example of, what is IFRS 15 versus what exactly is required for a SaaS company, right? That is the difference between what a layperson can do with technology versus what a chartered accountant can do. We give better prompts, we give better inputs, and we can understand the outputs in a much better fashion.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful and enriching session. Your thoughts and practical guidance were truly valuable and
Thank
will
you.
surely benefit us all. Sir, with your permission, may I conclude the session? I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all the participants for joining us today and making this session so engaging. With this, we come to an end of today's webinar. Thank you everyone for your time and participation. Have a wonderful day ahead.
So we will meet next Wednesday with the new topic and new faculty. Thank you, both the faculty and moderator. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
sir. Nice day,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.